intimacy's kind of like I don't know, for a lot of guys, it got replaced by pornography too. I think really damaged it, especially for me. You know, once I found pornography, there was a way to have a feeling, a connection with a woman that was safe enough for me to be in.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to be hurt.
Yeah.
There was some sexual reward to it.
Yeah.
And I could start it and stop it as I wish. And it was the only kind of relationship I could even really handle, kind of. When I was in other relationships, but none of them were as long as my relationship with pornography, you know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now I'm like, I think I'm 77 days off of pornography and 70 days off of masturbation. So I've had sexual activities, but I haven't been, you know, touching my wiener or whatever. People that say different stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what they say in your country, you know, topping off the
wanking.
Wanking or whatever. Yeah. Thinking of the queen or whatever they say, you know, I don't know what they say. Queen takes rook or whatever. That's like a chess move, but yeah. So that's been kind of different, you know. For me, that's been different, but that was a huge thing.
How is it different?
Well, for one, I quit thinking about it. It's like I don't think about pornography. I don't think about like masturbation. I don't have that weird feeling where like I'll masturbate and then I'll just be laying there like I'm still right where I was, but I've like kind of ejaculated or whatever. Because like sometimes like semen, or some people call it what, I don't know what people call it or whatever, like party sauce or whatever. I don't even know what people call it, you know, on the street or whatever. But like, I feel like the more I keep it in my body, the more masculine I feel, right? And the more of myself I feel, as opposed to just having a leak of it constantly. You know, it's kind of like I almost had a leak of my masculinity. And I would cause the leak, but the leak would happen. And it was just like a dripping pipe. It was like, you look at a dripping pipe, you're like, you know. But you look at a pipe that's not dripping, you're like, hey, this is some pretty good construction
I like
over
that.
here.
I love that phrase, leak of my masculinity. So
yeah, that's kind of what it felt like, you know, now that I really think about it. And then I start to look at women a little bit. I don't think of it just so much in I've always thought of women in more than just a sexual sense, but the sexual part isn't as strong. It's not like, let me just think about sex. It's giving me a little bit more space in myself to be like, well, let me think about who this person is and do I really want to engage with them? It starts to give a little bit more value to sex for me. And by that happening, intimacy is kind of created because for one, I have a little more intimacy with myself, right? It's like I respect my intimacy a little bit more. I'm not just masturbating. I'm not just like, you know, tossing my intimacy off to some person through a screen or something that doesn't really mean anything to me. Yeah. And so I think those are some feelings in my head that start to happen, and I start to feel a little bit more, I don't know if it's integrity, but it is a little bit more sense of intimacy with myself.
That's lovely. So one of the reasons that people resort to things like that, particularly after a breakup, is that the brain circuitry that is to do with unrequited love is relieved by certain activities because they cause the same kind of chemical cocktail. And those activities are things like alcohol, cocaine, pornography.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it makes it make sense, right? This is why people will indulge in those. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously they're addictive. So then it becomes something that you need to do more of to get the same reward.
Right. And that becomes your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then it's like, well, yeah, of course, other relationships are going to be different because I don't even realize the relationships that I put in front of.
And the other thing is that pornography creates such an unrealistic, idealized version of what a woman should look like and what she should be prepared to do in an intimate relationship, or even not in an intimate relationship, you know, like in a one-night stand or very early in dating. That's very damaging to male and female relationships as well. That, you know, the expectation that you will naturally have if you've been looking at that every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And to not have it in my brain, and it starts to my imagination starts to start up again.